we kind of skipped over it entirely. I don't know how we did that, but what is Project Nova? We should probably explain that.
Yeah, give or take half hour to this. Yeah, what are you actually
Yeah.
doing? Do you want to give the spiel, or do you want me to give the spiel now?
You go nuts. I did enough of it
Okay.
at Capcom.
I mean, we both did.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so Project Nova is a kind of a VR puzzle game set aboard the Nova Aurora, which is a ship on its maiden voyage. You play as a engineer aboard Nova Aurora, and yeah, basically your job is to repair the ship as needed. So you'll start off the game, you kind of get to experience a little bit of like the pre-launch and stuff like that, get yourself a little accustomed to the ship. Then you get chucked into stasis under the assumption of like we'll pull you out when we need things fixed and anything like that. And yeah, basically you get pulled out and find out things have gotten a lot worse than what you were hoping. And then yeah, throughout the game, it's your job to try and get it, try and get the ship back up and running and back onto its mission.
Okay, so why a VR puzzle game? Because the previous game that you did was a VR horror game, and both of these are very of the genres that you can get involved with in VR. Like these are some of the, I guess, some of the biggest genres, right? Like that's sort of like the main focus that people are doing here. What is it about Project Nova that makes it stand out from the crowd?
Well, yeah, definitely the space climbing sections. Like that's something that going to AvCon as well as like from kind of conception was something that we wanted to be very unique. We had a look at other VR experiences and stuff like that, and we couldn't find anyone who was doing spacewalks and like actually letting you just be in 0G and spacewalk on the exterior of a ship. The next one is kind of what went very well with Project Nightlight in just terms of like the atmosphere. In this one, it's less of a horror atmosphere and more of a astrophobia sort of atmosphere. So it's just kind of a thing of like, making you kind of hyper aware you're aboard a tin can floating through space, that if there's a crack in the hull, you're getting ejected and that's going to be it. And then, yeah, sort of the third one would just kind of be some of the mechanics. So we've just got like the, I'm pretty sure it's in some of the previews and stuff like that. So we've got like the welder and plasma cutter. So as you're going through and doing maintenance, you're going to have to cut off panels, weld things back together, and kind of things like that.
I'm blanking on the name now, but I know there was another there was a rock climbing game that came out a while back.
I think that was just one that was just called like Climber VR or something like
that. That might be what it is, yeah. So I know there has definitely been climbing stuff, but I don't know. I certainly don't know of something involving like spacewalks. I can't think of it. Maybe there is something.
Yeah.
And the biggest sort of game that is similar in that regard of like 0G sort of flinging yourself around, and obviously space game, would be Lone Echo. It's a game that is sort of exclusive to the Quest. And got like a lot of funding from them, from what we can tell, and that sort of stuff, like promotion and all that sort of thing. So yeah, like we couldn't find anything just sort of on Steam or available to the masses outside of that. Which isn't even on Steam. It's like exclusive to the Quest. So like we saw it as an opportunity to like jump in and fill a gap.
That's fair. So why the space? Like obviously there's that, but like, was there any other reason for like the space aesthetic? Like, do you guys have like a general interest in that sort of part of sci-fi, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's always cool to see spaceships and futuristic sort of stuff. But I think it was also just a fun sort of different challenge. Like the first game we did was set sort of 1980s to 1990s ish. And to then jump, 100 plus years into the future, it's just a fun little creative challenge to work out how things are going to look and that sort of stuff, as well as just unique storytelling opportunities for, that sort of period of time and that genre.
I'm sure there are also a lot of challenges that come with the space stuff, like from the programming side, trying to make that feel like it makes sense, give it an interpretation that kind of actually would be what that kind of feels like, and getting that tweaked in at a level that really it sort of works, right? But it isn't so much that people lose control over the actually trying to play the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. With the character that we have and like the way it's programmed and stuff like that, like I had to go through and basically reprogram or like give it kind of a different mode to work in to be like, oh, you're now in like 0G mode, so you're kind of floating, you're a lot more of just a physics object compared to like when you're walking around the ship, you have a lot more control over your movement. But even then, like when you're in 0G, from ourselves testing it, we're like, okay, the player can't just be a physics object and get yeeted out into space, because like yeah, it just kind of felt like you were suggesting where to go rather than having control.
Right.
So like even when you're in space and stuff like that, you kind of have like, it's a very slight nudge, but you can like nudge yourselves in directions and stuff like that, just purely for like playability and things like that, of like, if you can't, you just kind of are slowly floating away from the handle going, oh no, oh damn, oh damn.
And then you
So
need to
it's
have
like,
some sort of system to like either reset you or send you back to a checkpoint or something like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean,
but
yeah,
but if it was
do in
happening
those
constantly, like
Yeah.
it would stop being fun very quickly.
Yeah, so we wanted to like, well, I mean, through playtesting and stuff, we've kind of decided on like, okay, this is 0G, you're a physics object, you can throw yourselves around. Like we've we've kind of gotten to the point playtesting it where like we can get to certain sections and just kind of skip massive climbing sections because we're just like, oh yeah, if I throw myself at like roughly this angle, I'll land on that ladder and things like that. So it's like that's kind of fun to do as a developer. You kind of eventually get over the fear of being out there and floating in space, and you're just kind of like, oh no, I can muck around with this.
That's I didn't even think of that. Like, yeah, I guess with the 0G stuff, like those climbing sections, if you knew the angle to like go out, you could just fling across. That's cool.
Yeah.
That does add something like really, really cool to like, because yeah, there was as I said, there was the VR climber game, but chucking the 0G stuff in there does add a whole new dimension there that just wouldn't be possible otherwise.
Yeah, like yeah, if you're kind of ballsy enough or confident enough, you can just skip sections and kind of throw yourself around, have a little bit of fun with it. But there is still definitely that underlying like, if I mess this up, I'm just going to be sailing past that handle I'm aiming for and floating into the abyss.
I'm sure that does create a problem when it comes to bugs that may not have been anticipated, where you can possibly throw yourself in a way that gets yourself stuck between objects that you shouldn't be able to get into, and like potentially skipping into bits that you shouldn't be able to get to earlier than you should be, things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it is us ourselves trying to find those. Like, and inevitably, like, I'm sure someone will magically throw themselves at just the right angle to avoid everything we put in the way and skip something. But yeah, no, for those particular sections, there's a lot of kind of respawn areas and things like that, just so like you're semi kind of stuck to where we want you to go and where the intended experience is, but like you still do have that little bit of play. So yeah, it's like we try our best to make sure that you can't do anything like that, and even then, like those sections, like, you know, if you do skip some of the climbing stuff, it's not like it's not like a big mandatory thing. Like it's kind of more about like, look, if you want to have fun and throw yourself around, we're kind of cool with you doing that.
Yeah, I'm more talking about like doing something that causes a puzzle to behave in a way that shouldn't have happened, or you skip a certain piece of a puzzle, things like that.